owner of the Los Angeles Times blocked the editorial board's plan to endorse Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris for president, the editorial's editor resigned. Here's what we know. Editorial's editor Mariel Garza resigned Wednesday after her proposed editorial endorsing Harris was rejected by Patrick Soon-Shiong, who bought the paper for $500 million in 2018. Garza was informed that the newspaper would not take a stance supporting any political party. In a social media post, Soon-Shiong stated, "The editorial board chose to remain silent and I accepted their decision." In an interview with the Columbia Journalism Review, Garza explained, "I'm resigning because I want to make it clear that I am not okay with us being silent. In dangerous times, honest people need to stand up. This is how I'm standing up." The Los Angeles Times historically aligned with the Republican Party, endorsing its nominees from its founding year until 1972. Presidential endorsements were paused from 1976 to 2004. In 2008, the paper endorsed its first Democratic presidential candidate, Barack Obama. Since then, it has endorsed every Democratic nominee in subsequent elections. Following Garza's resignation, the Trump campaign criticized Harris for failing to secure an endorsement from her home state's largest newspaper. In contrast, Trump has not been endorsed by the New York Times, the largest newspaper in his own home state. Garza further stated, "But two things concern me. This is a point in time where you speak your conscience no matter what, and an endorsement was the logical next step after a series of editorials we've been writing about how dangerous Trump is to democracy, about his unfitness to be president, about his threats to jail his enemies. We have made the case in editorial after editorial that he shouldn't be reelected. This isn't the first high-profile departure at the paper this year. The Times executive editor left the company in what has been described as a mutual agreement. Should newspapers take political stances? What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments."
Welcome to another episode of Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. Welcome, Mrs. Kennis.
Thank you so much for having me.
And with billionaires at the helm, corporate media is now officially powered by 100% renewable self-interest. Also, before we get started, I have good news. I got a response to my email from Dr. Ben Giat, the professor of history and Italian studies at New York University. She writes about fascism, authoritarianism, propaganda, and democracy protection. She's the author of book Strongman Mussolini to the Present and recipient of Guggenheim and other fellowships and advisor to protect democracy and an MSNBC opinion columnist. She also appears frequently on CNN, MSNBC, PBS, and other networks. And this is the response. It's good and not, final. But it says, "Dear Sharon, Ruth thanks you for this invitation, but unfortunately her writing and teaching schedule does not permit her any time for this interview right now. Best regards, Katie Wheeler," which I guess that's her assistant. But I did write back and I asked her to consider maybe sending a statement so I can read a statement to the listeners and the viewers. So that was good news.
Great.
So we're on the right path. And as far as this nonsense going on with these billionaire-owned corporate media outlets, we are going to call them out. This is not a game. And here's an update. I'm going to flip this around so everybody can see who this is. This is the LA Times daughter. So her name is this is Patrick Soon-Shiong's daughter, and she said that the endorsement decision stemmed from Harris supporting the war in Gaza. Mind you, LA Times has not written, I have not seen any releases, stories, footage of them supporting Gaza in any way, shape, or form. They have not come out and spoken up about the journalists that have been assassinated over in Gaza as well. So his daughter here just decided to take it upon herself. She's 31, to take it upon herself to make a statement saying that was the reason. And actually, he came back and made another statement that said that that was her own opinion. That wasn't his reasoning. He admitted what his reasoning was. He supports Trump.
Of course he does. He's a one percenter. And pursuant to her statement, the only thing I need to say, I think, is it sounds like they came here from South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
founding the originating point being South Africa, where she speaks about apartheid. We all know that Israel was selling ammunition, military equipment, and whatever all else the Afrikaners needed in order to subdue our people during the apartheid state. So she is very, very familiar with the Afrikaners and how they treated our people during that apartheid state. And personally, I think that she's uninformed, immature, and just a rich little brat who just wanted some 15 seconds of fame and to see her name in print.
She's getting that and then some because, like I said, as soon as she put that statement out on her own, she's not necessarily even employed at the paper from what I'm seeing. She's just his, daughter from nepotism. And they say that Patrick Soon-Shiong is saying the decision not to endorse in the 2024 race was not tied to the war in Gaza, and his daughter's views were her own opinion. So he's standing 10 toes down in his support for Trump.
Well, personally, I think the question was asked on another broadcast. Should media outlets endorse candidates? I think they should not. LA Times has a print circulation of about 118,000. That's nothing. I mean, what's the population of California all by itself? So who are you sending your little lousy 118,000 printed newsletters to? And we all know that 118,000 printed newsletters cannot sustain an operation as large as LA Times. So since I'm on a data roll, Washington Post lost an editor also. Their print circulation is 139,000. Neither one of those is large enough for them to step out and start endorsing candidates. Journalism should always be about providing the stories, providing the facts. But once you provide the facts and once you provide the stories, it should be left up to the people to make their own decisions and to make their own choices. You should not provide the stories and the data and the facts and then turn around and come back and say, well, based upon what I did, this is who I endorse. No, you provide the information and you step back.
Right. Let the people, come to their own conclusions.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now the backlash here, I'm just kind of petty. I like to see the pettiness of it all as well. But you see the Beltway media, they're throwing their little hissy fits and circling the wagons like they usually do. And here Jake Tapper says, canceling a newspaper subscription helps politicians who don't want oversight, does nothing to hurt the billionaires who own the newspapers and make decisions with which you may disagree, and will result in fewer journalists trying to hold the powerful to account. We'll get to that in a second.
Mhm.
But Ellie Mistal, here he says, counterpoint. Nothing hurts billionaires. But if billionaires are going to use newspapers as their toy, then we should smash their toys.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the subscription you cancel can be redeployed to some other publication that is not owned by people who could capitulate to
Capitulate.
fascists. Yes. And that is the main counterpoint there. And that's what we've all been saying. It's like, well, you're whining about people covering or canceling their subscriptions, but we've been asking you guys even before this point to start holding these people to account. What were they doing? Tiptoeing around Trump for 10 years. They normalized him.
Yeah. And for me, kudos to however many of the subscribers canceled their subscriptions. It is, for me, today the epitome of civil disobedience.
Yep.
I don't have to pay my I don't know how much it is to subscribe to either one of the papers. And if they weren't so desperate, every time you try to read one of their articles, they force you to become a subscriber to
Mm-hmm.
read the article. And I refuse. I am not going to become a subscriber so I can read your little lousy article. So, as far as I am concerned, it is the epitome of civil disobedience, and it says to you, "We disagree with what you have done." You can, as a person, as the owner of that newspaper, you can support whomever you like. You like Trump, then support Trump, but don't try and push that down our throats one way or the other. If you support Madam Vice President, then fine, you support her. You don't support her, then fine, don't support her. But don't try and sway the rest of us. And I don't know whether you're going to pull this one up or not. That New York Post support for Donald Trump was egregious. They at
Yes.
least they have more subscribers. They have more subscribers than LA Times or Washington Post. I think they have about 145,000 uh, print um, print copies in circulation, but none of them have 200,000. So why are you trying to force in big cities, i.e., LA, Washington, D.C., and New York City? Why are you trying to force down our throats your candidate when November 26th, Donald Trump is supposed to be in New York City to face all his little charges and see whether or not he even is going to be prosecuted or sentencing passed down on him, and hopefully it will, and hopefully they'll give him life.
And I was actually going to, I can't click on the article because it's got a paywall. It's the Daily Beast, but I just want you to see the headline here as to why this is not good. So the headline here says, exclusive. Robert Kagan tells the Daily Beast that Donald Trump's meeting with Blue Origin executives the day its founder, Jeff Bezos, killed the paper's endorsement for Kamala is proof of a backroom deal. So somebody posted it and I was going to try to click on it, but it's got a paywall. But this, I've seen other people talking about this too, and I didn't save those links to where they had the screenshots. So maybe at a later date, I might pull those up if anybody's still interested. But I just wanted y'all to see that headline to let everybody know that we're not crazy. They're trying to gaslight us, and we're not crazy. And you do
It,
not
it,
have to
it,
support it.
you don't have to support it, and I don't want to be viewed as being no disrespect to anyone. I don't want to be viewed as being a Madam Vice President zealot.
Hmm.
It could be Mickey Mouse running against Donald Trump. It should be the same thing. You all stay out of it. Give us the facts, give us the stories, give us the data, and let us make our own decisions. And that's why the people never ever get a chance to run for political office, because the one percenters rule, control, and define and call everything in this country. So whatever they want, they whip out their billions and off they go. Do you know that in the world there are 71 multi billionaires?
That doesn't make sense to me. It just really
71.
doesn't.
And here we have people on the streets, homeless year after year after year, houseless year after year after year. Uh, and those who may not be homeless, houseless, a lot of them have household incomes less than $500 a month. And they're never ever going to get a chance at improving their quality of life, because that 1% is always going to decide what the country will or will not do based upon their interests. And whether or not those subscribers aren't going to break them, because they have multi deals in the back rooms, and that's
Hmm.
where all this stuff takes place.
And just to remind everyone, boycotts do work. My parents were part of the Montgomery bus boycotts. It's just a matter of discipline. I know times have changed from the 60s to the 2000s, but it seems like, you hear them trying to say, make America great again. We're not going back. We're not going back. And I will have the link to this article in so you can read it, because you have it's an independent artist, a journalist too. So Sean O'Leary, but boycotts work. Amazon, as well as your, canceling your subscription to Wall Street Journal. Cancel Amazon Prime. Start, supporting, especially this holiday season coming up. Start supporting these local businesses, small businesses that are still hanging on by a thread. Support them. Don't give Bezos any money. He's got 9 yachts. 9 yachts. That is just like, I mean, 9 yachts. Mm-mm-mm. But I mean, we also have the issue of the deep fakes. I'm not going to play that video because we're going to run out of time. But I do want to play this video and talk on the other side of this, because Trump tomorrow, Sunday, he, in a calculated play in New York City, which is not a swing state, Trump will be holding a rally at Madison Square Garden, where pro-Nazi U.S. fascists held the controversial rally in 1939. So he's just basically leaning into the American Hitler narrative or title that they gave him. But I want to play this video by Lawrence, and then we'll talk on the other side of that, and then close out with the questions and comments. I want you to make some comments, so let's listen to see what Lawrence has to say.
It has been 80 years since Adolf Hitler was a factor in an American presidential election, and now Hitler is back, with Donald Trump quoted praising Adolf Hitler, saying Adolf Hitler did some good things. Donald Trump has not said what those good things are. Donald Trump's response today to his former White House Chief of Staff, Marine Corps General John Kelly, quoting Donald Trump's praise of Hitler, was not to deny the words that John Kelly quoted Donald Trump saying. Donald Trump's response was a written statement simply calling John Kelly, quote, a total degenerate. Donald Trump did not issue a statement saying Hitler did not do some good things. Donald Trump could have issued a statement saying that, but he didn't. Donald Trump knows that he has the American Nazi supporters out there who are going to vote for him. Actual American Nazis. Small sliver of Trump voters, but he needs every one of them. Donald Trump knows that he needs every total degenerate American Nazi voter in every swing state to vote for him. And so Donald Trump cannot afford to lose a single one of them. And that's why he refused to condemn Hitler today and only condemned John Kelly. What are the good things? What are the good things that Hitler did? That is the first question for Donald Trump, for any reporter who is next allowed to ask a question of Trump. What are the good things Hitler did? Hitler is known for attempting to exterminate every Jewish person living in Europe, and he hoped to exterminate every Jew living in the world. Hitler tried to fulfill that ambition by annihilating 6 million men, women, and children, grandfathers, grandmothers, great-grandfathers, babies. And while Hitler was at it in those death camps, in combat, Hitler killed as many American soldiers as he possibly could. Adolf Hitler introduced the idea of bombing civilian populations from the air that had.
What are your thoughts on that? And give us some words of encouragement. I think you're on mute.
So
Okay.
a couple of things. Thank you. This whole thing about MAGA, Make America Great Again, we should all respond with, okay, and slavery made America rich. So when you talk about Make America Great Again, what are you really saying? That you don't have enough money, so you're going to revert this country back to slavery so that you can make it even richer than it already is. And we should never forget, on the backs of our ancestors, this is how this country became the richest country in the world. As far as Hitler is concerned, there are a couple of excellent books that talk about Hitler got his ideas for how he would treat the now Holocaust survivors and victims, the Jews. He got all his ideas basically from him studying this country and how this country stood up the system, institution of slavery, how this country treated its enslaved people. And in one of those books, it actually says, don't know how true it is. If somebody out there can fact check me, I would appreciate it. But yeah, the information in the book seems to be quite reliable, that there were things that this country did to its enslaved people, our ancestors, that even Hitler felt was too far over the top for him to even do. Now, he, sent them to the ovens and he gassed them and this and that and the other 6 million. But when we talk about that, that cannot be the final point. The final point must be 246 years of forced-free labor, and we lost millions of ancestors, more than 6 million. 2 million never made it to the human cargo vessels because the rich Southern gentile decided they wanted ceramic toothpicks. And in order to have ceramic toothpicks, they actually went to the continent and slaughtered thousands and thousands and thousands of our beautiful elephants. And it's the male elephant with the tusk, so that they could get the tusk. And they used our African brothers to transport those 80 to 125 pound tusks thousands of miles, well, maybe just hundreds of miles, but it probably felt like thousands to them. It probably might have been. And along the way, over 2 million of them died from sores and the infestation of having those tusks dig into their skin. So when we talk about 6 million, we need to be keenly aware of the fact that I do regret the loss of 6 million, but we have 2 million who never even made it to the human cargo vessels. We have 2 million at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, and we have millions and millions and millions who died from the brutality and the atrocities that were perpetrated upon them over 246 years of forced-free labor alone, and then 100 years of Jim Crow lynching and the brutalities that accompanied that era. So when we talk about who Donald Trump is emulating, Donald Trump is, we can say, emulating Hitler, but Donald Trump is emulating the behavior of the founding fathers of this country. he's not necessarily emulating Hitler. Yeah, we can blame it on Hitler, but he is emulating the behavior that Hitler studied from this country in order to be able, he probably would have come up on his own with some things, but he studied what was going on here and implemented a lot of that as his way of gaining power and bringing down the Jews. As far as words of wisdom or whatever, here's what I would say. Everybody keeps talking about Madam Vice President Donald Trump's camp has done nothing. What has she done in the 4 years she's been vice president? I would flip that and say, what did Michael Pence do in the 4 years he was Donald Trump's vice president? Vice presidents are to be seen, not heard. Vice presidents are to do what they are told to do. What did Joe Biden do as Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years? So when we talk about, or when we hear Donald Trump talking about she did nothing, she is the vice president, traveled probably more than Michael Pence traveled, probably traveled more than Joe Biden traveled in her position as vice president. So I refuse to hear what Donald Trump has to say. And the last thing I'm going to say, which I hope is going to be taken the way I say it, I'm still upset about Donald Trump touring McDonald's. What happened after he toured McDonald's? This whole outbreak of E. coli. I mean, you believe it? This
I'm
dude
saying,
rolls up in McDonald's, and the very next day, this massive outbreak of E. coli. So why do we want a president who goes into McDonald's, and the very next day, there's this massive outbreak of E. coli, dangerous outbreak of E. coli, I would
right,
like to
right,
say.
deadly as well. Some people have
Deadly,
passed away.
deadly,
Yep.
deadly. So
So
thank you
on
very much.
that, me and my stomach are safe because I'm boycotting McDonald's anyway. So I had this to say. My closing statement is: isn't it funny how the same men who say we can't have a woman run the country are the same men who expect a woman to run their household? Food for thought.
Yeah,
They're
well,
they're
those same
whining, whining, whining. The woman can't run the country, but they expect the same women to run their household.
they don't expect them to run the household. Here's what they really expect, if we want to be honest about it. They want, now you talk about make America great again. What they really want is for them women to be barefoot and pregnant.
Yep.
The little lady standing in the doorway waiting for me to come home. No shoes on, barefoot, and this is baby number 10 she about to pop out. Barefoot and pregnant. That's what they want. They don't want them to be in charge of the household. No.
Yeah.
You just be barefoot and pregnant. Otherwise, this wouldn't be some big issue about reproductive rights. You
Yep.
don't have no right, you don't have no reason to be talking about reproductive rights other than they want to thump themselves on the chest and see what I did.
And that's good. That we're going to get into that in our next one because I want to talk about these pastors and these churches. Preaching all that in their pulpit because I heard this Pentecostal pastor talking nonsense on NPR before we started tonight, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. So that's why I wanted to end on that, but we will get into that in the next one. Miss Kenneth and I were planning that. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and help the algorithm subscribe. And if you would like to support, we send us a donation that will help us greatly. And we will, if y'all like to be on the show, if you would like to leave us a message, we have a voicemail link as well. Leave all comments. PG-13. Be nice. We love you guys, and thank you again. Bye.
Peace.